that kind of how you still feel until maybe this thing settles in?
We weren't really trying to kick touchback. We are just trying to put it in the end zone. They have the decision either to come out with it or take a touchback. So we put the decision on them. If we want to just kick touchbacks, we'll hit it out of the back. But in that game, we just felt the risk reward. We wanted to make them go a little bit further instead of just giving them the ball from the set up the target zone to get out, because what we've seen is teams that get the ball cleanly are getting the ball out to the 30 anyway. They're getting it out. The average last week was 55 returns out to the 29-yard line. So analytics says, certain times, depending on who you're playing, you got to look at the risk reward. You decide what you're going to do there.
Kick precisely in a certain spot, but like what's ideal, like 5 yards in, 3 yards?
Yeah, it depends, like who you're playing. Obviously, sometimes you want to try to bait him to come out. You put it right near the goal line. You want to go a little bit deeper, make him go a little bit further. You have more respect for him. The good thing is that we have Bucker that can just, he can dial that up. Not every kicker can do that. He had a couple of them that got out, too far, like adrenaline was pumping on the first one. He hit it out of the back of the end zone. We didn't want that. But after that, he kind of settled in. We had a couple balls that came down 2 or 3 deep. And those are the ones you got to make a decision on. Oh, you also have to field them. Because the ball is a live ball, so you make them field it. So that's the goal on that.
When it, like perfect conditions, no wind and stuff like that, what's his little zone he could put the ball in? In those things?
He could certainly go right and left and middle, and I'm talking like a third of the team of the field. He can do that. But what we're trying to do is make it skip. Ideally is one that lands on the 5, from the 5 to the goal line, that skips into the end zone, and they don't field it, and you get the ball at the 20. That's the ideal situation. Or something that's really hard to field, and they bobble it around and creates hang time. The guys are, going as soon as the ball hits the ground, and we get them inside the 20. But you don't want to give them a ball directly into their hands, if you don't have to. That's without getting into detail of everything that we're doing. So
there was a return for a touchdown. There were a couple little fumbles and things. Did you think that the play looks like it should be a fun
it's going to give everybody a variety of different things that they can do. I love it right now. I know it looked like we were just banging touchbacks. That's really not what we were doing in that game. Every game, every week will be different depending on who we're playing and how much we respect the return team. How much we see scheme-wise, where they're lining up, how we can attack them. So it's going to be different every week. That's what makes it so exciting for me.
I think you mentioned that your group originally recommended the 35 for that touchback, and then we got moved back to the 30.
Yep.
Do you think the 35 would make a difference?
Yeah, I do. I think the 5 more yards, I think you'll see a lot more kicks into the target zone, because now, if you get them at the 29, now you're better than the 35. It's all about the analytics and the numbers and where they end up.
And Dave, with your own return, like to start the second half, you guys do some creative things, kind of like a counter play.
We did. All right, I got to give you credit for checking it out, because it was a counter. We ran a counter. We showed one thing and then came back the other way, and we almost popped it. Unfortunately, we had a holding call on that play. That was the one where McCall almost came, popped through the middle. Probably one block away or one decision by him away. Unfortunately, we got the holding call, but after that, they kicked touchbacks. They kind of know.
Some teams are pretty conservative with this, but have you had fun kind of reimagining what?
Yeah, for sure. It's fun. It's fun thinking about how to attack a team and and what you're going to do in a return game. So it's all good.
How important has Leo become, just across the board? I guess we can ask Spags the same question, but just in what you guys do as well.
Yeah, Leo, out of all our players on special teams, besides Justin Reed, he has our best get off, off the ball, like moving the ball and then somebody taking off. He has incredible get off. That's why I read something the other day. Somebody wrote that he might be a good defensive. He might, just because of his get off. He's so quick. Not everybody can do what he does. And he's so powerful too. And he's got leverage with the way he's built. He just can do a lot of things. And everywhere we put him, he just continues to excel.
We'll go Nate and then Matt.
Dave, you mentioned how Bucker had some adrenaline going. Is that a similar thing with Ariza trying to get the pin punt down?
Yeah. First punt of his career, in a regular season game. We had 3 punts. 2 of them went touchbacks. Those are the ones he's got to get better with his touch. I like the hang time. That was important. That was good. The good thing was his third punt was his best punt. We had the 4.94 hang time. we had a chance to get him inside the 10, and then Nazi makes a great play at gunner. It was good to see him come back off of his injury. But overall, I was pleased with overall performance last week. Got a tough one this week against Cincinnati. They're very good.
How did Rico look to you with Cincinnati last week? The guy you had, their punter.
Ryan, yeah, Ryan. I said this a while, I said this when we had them both. I said, I think we have 2 NFL punters, and obviously it's holding true. He had an excellent game. If you look at his numbers, he was banging the ball, and he had one ball that just went into the end zone, but it could have been like an 80-yard net. It might have been best in history. It was unbelievable, but he's off to a good start as well.
Last one, Matt.
Where's kind of Xavier in the thought process now for punt returns, and is he still an option, or is
Oh yeah, he's an option. Obviously, we wanted to ease him in, but we really didn't ease him in, I guess. 2 touchdowns. So I mean, he's off and running. He's a guy that, McCole, him, Sky Moore, all 3 of those guys, I feel comfortable back there as a punt returner.
Would Xavier be a guy right now you're just using if you need a spark, or?
He's a guy that, once Hollywood Brown comes back, now you got to decide. Somebody's got to go down. I don't know who that guy's going to be. That might put him back into the mix. We'll see. I mean, but he's a guy that obviously we can go to, and we wouldn't miss a beat with him for sure.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Check my watch. Yeah. It seems like forever that we played a game, but we're on to the next one, and this is we got challenges back to back. I mean, Baltimore was tough, and now another AFC North team, so we're looking forward to it. But with that, I'll just open it up.
Steve, just big picture, what were you most encouraged by the opener and discouraged by?
Yeah, I don't know. I always look at the discouraging things because we're always trying to get better. I did like, listen, we played the running back run plays fairly well. I mean, the quarterback was a whole nother issue. And we made some good plays. I mean, I remember rattling off in the meeting that we had Tuesday with the guys after they came back after their time, some of the real positives. And, the play that Trent made on the 4th down. And Jalen Watson had a PB pass breakup was really key. Chris's turnover, sack was really big. And there were a couple others in there throughout the game. But, and at the end of the day, what I did say to the unit was at the end of the day, our number one goal was points allowed. We shoot for 17, it was 20, so that gave our team a chance to win. I just didn't like the way it ended. The 2 explosive pass plays are probably the 2 that stick out. And we can clean those up, and if we can clean that up, that would have certainly helped us in that game.
Assignment stuff, zone coverage?
Okay, so there were 2 of them. Both of them, I think, were scrambles and extended downs, right? So you're dealing with an elite quarterback there. Had we done a better job there, I think that would have helped. On the back end, he's probably gonna throw some guys open on a scramble. We just need to get him tackled on one of them, and then at the end it was just kind of an eye discipline thing. They got the ball down there. Now, the good part of that is we kept them in bounds on that play. Clock ran, and then they had a couple plays at the end. But that one is the one that stuck out. Had we played the end of the game defense a little bit better, it was funny how things work out, right? So they threw a couple of sideline throws, so they stopped. And that's what you got to do to get the ball down the field. And then on one play when we had him tackled is when Leo got hurt. And so the clock stops, But, it was one of those things, Leo was hurt, and unfortunately for us, it kind of gave a clock stoppage for them. And But we would have liked to have been better in that.
Steve, the guys who practiced little or didn't practice at all at camp, Bolton,
Yeah.
Reed, well, maybe not so much Chris, but him too.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of them.
Watson.
Yeah.
Of those guys, did you see a lot of guys, guys still getting used to?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about that before.
But did you see it though?
A little bit. I mean, the concern was since we hadn't had enough reps together, because every year is different, that it wouldn't gel quite like we had at the end of last year. A little bit of that. I thought it was more. I mean, playing 80 plays is a lot of plays. Now, that's partly our fault, right? We can get off the field on a couple of third downs, and I thought it got tough at the end of the game because of that. And to your point, Adam, that those guys hadn't played, so they hadn't been in that's a different kind of conditioning. It's different than getting on a bike or running gassers and whatnot. And I think if you ask those guys, they'd tell you that they were just kind of gutting it out at the end. And fortunately for us, I mean, listen, I know the foot and the inches, the game inches, all that, but what I look at is, thank God. I mean, Nick could have been closer to that, but thank God he got there when he did to at least push him out enough that we got the black shoe on the white back end there,
Pete.
Specifically on the Bolton Likely play, what's the coaching point with
At the end,
I'm talking about the touchdown.
the scramble.
Scramble.
Yeah, well, there were a lot. I mean, it wasn't just Nick. I mean, when the quarterback starts to scramble, what we preach in zone coverage is it becomes like a basketball game. We got to plaster somebody. So Nick got caught plastering this tight end, so he gets it completed. But once the ball's thrown, we expect more red jerseys there to help out. And there was one player that could have been closer to where the ball was thrown that I think would have helped us. So there's a couple little things in there in our scramble drills that could be better.
Felix rotated in a little bit.
Say it again.
Felix, what have you maybe tangibly seen?
I'll tell you what, so Tuesday's meeting, when I got them together, I usually hit some positives, and then I hit the things I got to bang them on. But I just was into teaching on Tuesday and corrections. But the one play that I showed that I said I think goes unnoticed, it was a relentless play, was one that Felix made. They threw a rocket screen out to our right. And he turned and went. He made the play. Now, had he not made that, they had a hat for hat. And it might have been one of those rocket schemes that goes a little bit further than we want to. So getting back to Felix, that play stuck out. And I thought he did an admirable job in the other stuff.
After the preseason and training camp that Jaden Hicks had, there was expectation he might be able to contribute. He doesn't get any snaps. Where's his?
He's got that. I think that will, as the season goes on, I think you'll see him get a few. He got some special team snaps. He's in one or two of our packages that we, didn't get to. But we got to start working him. And there's some other guys in the same boat. And I've talked to you guys about this before. We like to get those guys going early. This game was this Baltimore game was pretty tight, and so kind of stuck with the guys. But I think as we get going here, he'll get a little bit more.
Certainly a
Couple
different
more, we'll
kind
start
of
with Todd.
offense you're dealing with this week.
Yeah.
The running quarterback won't be an issue this time around. What did you see from Burrow? You haven't seen him in a couple of years because he didn't play last year.
Yeah.
People think he doesn't look healthy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. He looks pretty good to me. I've got a great deal of respect for this quarterback, the wide out, the whole offense, the coaches, the way they run their program. It's always been a tough out for us last year. I mean, in any year. And last year, even though Joe didn't play, I mean, I thought the backup Browning was really good. I mean, I just think they do a good job. They attack us a certain way, and it makes it really challenging. And we got to be on point. We certainly have to be better as a defense than we were last week, in my opinion.
He's been a guy that's been tough for you guys to get on the ground. Is there something about?
He's not. Listen, I mean, he'd probably tell you he's not Lamar Jackson. It's not, but he's a lot better at evading a rush than I think people give him credit for. He's sneaky quick. He's very perceptive of what's going on. I mean, he knows exactly where to go with the ball, and if he can't get it in that spot early, he knows how to bide himself just enough time, to get the ball downfield. So we've talked a lot about that this week, that the containment of the quarterback on passes is really, really important.
Last one, Nick.
Yeah, Steve, with the Zach Taylor offense, what are some of the unique factors of it that make it different from other offenses?
Well, the quarterback is always going to make offensive schemes different. I just think the way they stick to what they do, they're one of those offenses that will try to find ways to get you to show them what you're doing so that they can get in the best play. And he's got a quarterback that does it as good as anybody, and I think that's always been a challenge for us. They're really good at that. We good?
Thanks, Coach.
All right, yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
What'd you feel just overall with what you guys were able to do against the Ravens?
Yeah, I think for the first game, I think I felt pretty good for the guys. I think there's some things here or there where we could be better, which is normal. But the guys played fast. The tempo was good. The accountability on what they're doing within the plays. I mean, for some of the guys, like we talked about heading into that game, it was going to be their first time. I thought they handled it well and kept the emotions, and I didn't think the game seemed too big for the young guys.
Hey, Matt, I want to ask you about a specific play. Early in the second half, we got an option route for Travis Kelce, and Pat kind of pumps it and stops and then throws to Rasheed behind him. I just wonder what you saw from Rasheed on that play and kind of what went into that big play.
Yeah, he has a feel and zone on that particular play, and Pat does a great job of being able to just kind of feel what the defense is going to do, how they're going to play it. And it's just two playmakers making plays. Rasheed's doing a great job of catching the ball first, getting vertical, and when you have two good players like that, it just brings the defense in, and then he was able to throw it behind him.
Is that kind of an indication of maybe where Rasheed has come from a year ago to make kind of a feel sort of play like that?
I believe so. I go back to, I forget which game it was earlier in the year where he had a particular play, Rasheed, where him and Pat were off just a bit within the first 4 or 5 games. And we came back a game or two later, and we ran a similar play, and they were on. And I feel like that's almost, you could almost go back to that one play for Rasheed's career with Pat and from last year and say that was kind of the start. Now it's happening naturally on all plays, and I think you felt that the first game.
There was been some early talk about Xavier and Press. Just how important is it to maybe get him some looks where it's not even a pass play, it's a reverse, and you're able to get him with a head of steam?
It's critical because he's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. Most defenses that you talk to, they always are concerned about the speed element from players, defensive coordinators. And when he, what he did at Texas and what he's able to do here this first game, it's important to get him going. I mean, he's a special player, but again, he has a ways to go. And so he made a nice play on the catch down the sideline. But it's our job to make sure that, the beautiful thing is we got a lot of tools to be able to work with the players, and he's a big part of that.
Matt, Noah Gray, is there something about him, about his skill set that sort of makes him a nice combo when you guys, with Travis, when you guys go to the two tight end stuff you do?
Yeah, his ability to be the U tight end and run routes and the Y tight end for us and block and be able to do both of them really well, I think stands him apart from a lot of guys in this league. On top of that, you hear me talk a lot about the trust factor of guys being in the right spot at the right time. Be honest with you, I'm not sure if there's another player on the team that really is at the right spot at the right time within this offense than what Noah does. And it might not always show up in the newspaper or online, but he does a lot of great stuff.
Do you have an example of a play from the game the other night?
I'd have to go back, and I'm so past that game. I can't think right now exactly of a specific play, but they're everywhere. And so sometimes he gets the ball, sometimes he doesn't. But I do know for Patrick to be able to have a guy that he knows that he can trust. If Kelsey's out on a play, he knows he'll be in the right spot. If Kelsey's in, and he knows what Noah can do, so it's very valuable.
Have you had a guy like that? I mean, I know you were gone those years in Chicago, but have you had a guy like that in the time you've been here, either before or after?
We've had a lot of good guys, different roles at that position, but I think for him, when you tie in both parts of it and just the consistency of what he's done, it's sneaky. I was happy for him the other day when he was able to stay here for a while in Kansas City, because he's a valuable asset, and I think he knows how much we appreciate him, and it's really cool to see somebody work hard that's been drafted here that gets rewarded, and it's just a win-win across the board. But not many like him. He's a great player.
We've seen you use Isaiah between the tackles or windows he can run, but how much more advanced maybe is he this year where he can be used as like a clear out type of player and motion even pre-snap?
It's great because he's a weapon, and teams know that when you can catch the football downfield in the flat and run as hard as he does and do those things, you're able to be multiple in what you do. And so teams got to be aware of that. And I think mentally he's done a great job of being able to really digest what we want to do with him, and he can just keep growing within this offense.
Nick?
Yeah, what do you have to be mindful of with the Lou Anarumo defense?
With the what?
With Lou Anarumo's defense.
Oh, yeah. Well, he does a lot of different things really well. Great disguises, not a lot of tendencies. And I just think that's proven to who he is as a defensive coordinator his whole career. There's been some phenomenal matchups that we've had with him. And he's got players that you can tell play fast and they know what they're doing. So you put that combination together, and I just have a lot of respect for him, and he does a lot of great things.
Todd?
I'll ask you about a couple of new guys as well. Kingsley, how did he grade out for you guys?
I thought he did well. That's not an easy stage to be on, that first game against that defense, but there's some growing for sure, technique-wise, fundamentally. But for the most part, if you ask me, first game to come out of that game, him playing that way, I'd take that all day long.
And Piron was just here for a little bit, but he got in there and had catch him real close on the other one. What was it like to have him just for a short time and get him out there?
It was great because going into that week of such short notice of really our plays, our offense, our lingo, our language, and I knew from the first couple of days of him being here that he was going to be able to do enough of what we needed him to do for that game. Now we get into this week, and he's able to digest more and kind of understand this language, and now we're able to feel a little bit more comfortable and just get to see how much we want to continue to use him.
The little swing pass, I don't know how you guys grade things. You grade that a drop? Was it not a drop? How does that go?
That was a tough one. Where we were, not many reps between those two guys on that type of throw. He's only been here so long, and so that's a tough one because it was accurate, it was there, but yet not easy. It was wide, and he put one hand out, but there's a lot of trust in him and Pat that if we do that again, that they'll make the play.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.
Bengals week. What's that come to mean kind of over the years?
It's tough, challenging opponent. Always give us trouble. It's always a battle when we face those guys, whether it's in a regular game or AFC Championship. We know it's going to be a four-quarter battle.
Last year, you guys played him in the regular season. No Joe Burrow that time. What have you seen? You just got one game of tape this year. What do you think of where he is right now and getting back in the mix?
Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow, man. Great quarterback. Can make all the tough throws, resilient, and got a lot of special guys around him, so it's a tough team.
Is it fun to face a team that two teams don't really like each other, seems like? Kind of a rivalry there?
I mean, righteously, if you look at it from that standpoint, I mean, it's always a challenge. It's always a lot of competitive edges within the game, just how many games have been played and how often we've competed against one another and how have they taken place. I think we only beat Joe Burrow twice. I think he has to one up on us. We beat him last year, but Joe Burrow didn't play, so it's always something to look forward to.
How much do you relish in the fact that you could take up 2 players, 3 players, and then that allows George to get one-on-one, especially in a game like this?
George got to get more sacks. We got to get more sacks, man. That's the case. Just to make sure Tershawn Warren and Mike Dana, all those guys are going early in the game. And getting George Karlaftis started early, I think this can be effective for us as a whole.
We mentioned some of the kind of jawing back and forth, little locker room talk, guys talk this way and that way. And Burrow had the whole 9 yards a couple of years ago. You don't have that with a lot of teams, right? There's not much of that going on. What is it about these two teams getting together where there is kind of that kind of talking back and forth?
I think that transferred by the importance and the intensity of the game and just how many times Joe Burrow has came in here and beat us in our home stadium. And I think his teammates came up with their name and stuck with us. I think it was fair to say at the moment, right? Yeah, beat us, I think, 3-1. So I don't think it was a rivalry at that point until we started winning more games.
How do you see this one? It's early, right? But it's AFC game and tiebreaker type things if you look down at the playoffs. I know they're all important, but does this one have a little edge to it, I guess?
Yeah. In the later of the year, it can be your record can be affected by it, whether it comes down to us having the same record or positioning on playoff. I think it's very important, especially for us and where we're trying to go and how this playoff is only one bye week now, and also the home field advantage, which is important for us. We would definitely love to stay at home, but it's kind of early to be worried about that. I think more so it's about making sure we're competing at a high level, facing a tough opponent, an AFC opponent at that.
Chris, with the quarterback like Joe Burrow, how important is it from a rush lane perspective to kind of maintain him in the pocket so he can't take off?
Joe Burrow is a heck of a quarterback on throwing the ball and making all the tough throws, but I think his running ability doesn't go as noticeable as everybody see. He can run the ball exceptionally well. I think he's a step-up guy. He's different from Lamar, where Lamar can run any A gap, B gap, or C gap. He can extend plays like that. But I think Joe Burrow, his running doesn't get as capitalized as his throwing does, but he's an effective runner when he has the space. So we definitely got to be condescending on our pass rushing lanes.
Guys, speaking of Lamar, going through that last week where it seems like he's running around for 20 yards and you guys are having to chase it, how do you kind of have to maintain that stamina so you can have that energy there towards the end?
Yeah, it's very challenging chasing Lamar all over the field. As you can see, fourth quarter, it showed at times. But it's a different type of quarterback. Lamar definitely runs a 4.2, 4.3. Joe Burrow is 4.7, 4.6, 4.8, somewhere in that area. But he's still effective on his feet. So being condescending, I definitely love to chase Joe Burrow around other than Lamar. Anybody other than Lamar. It always offers a different type of challenge when you're rushing the passer.
Last one, Pete.
You're one of the better pass rushers in the league. Asking about a teammate, what's your assessment of Leo Chanel, even though it's a different position, as a pass rusher?
He's been very effective for us, whether it's playing in coverage linebacker, whether it's setting the edge for us as an outside linebacker, or as asking him to line up at a 3-tech and bear front and, play his gap. And his talent showed for us last week. We was able to ask him from so many different positions, and it just shows you the body of work Leo has been put it forward. Starting with training camp and the year before that, but this year it's a little more trust into it, and they're moving him around. He's been very effective for this defense.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.